Welcome back to the Pop Astrologist Presents, where pop culture and astrology align. And this week, I am so thankful to have Neha back in the hot seat because too much has entirely transpired with Taylor, Frankie, Paul, The Bachelorette, Dakota. It's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. I cannot wait to get into all of it.
Amazing. So before we dive in, we're going to be focusing the episode strictly on the Bachelorette cancellation as well as Taylor and Dakota's charts. Neha, do you have anything for spring that you want to share with the class?
It is spring. Happy spring equinox in the north and happy fall equinox for the southern hemisphere. That's tea. That's cool. I want to
Yes.
experience that. I am teaching a casual electional astrology workshop on April 1st. It's at 3:30 p.m. Central, 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. Basically, we're going to look at how to find auspicious moments to take your actions. And it's casual, right? It's like
Hmm.
not every day you're like doing something huge. However, every day we're taking small steps towards our goals, our dreams, our intentions, just living our life. And we just want things to go even a little bit better. And this workshop will help you do that. Compound interest, it's like that, but with your actions and astrology. That is coming up on April 1st. There are more workshops to come. So if you want to follow my work, you can follow me on Threads and on Instagram, astrology dot with dot Neha, which is Neha, period. Okay.
Yes, we love clear. We love clarity, especially as Mercury is still waking up, right? So we don't want to
Oh my God,
assume
yes.
like we all got it, which is also why I think it's important for us to have this conversation before the rest of like the Bachelorette shit show continues. Let's see, Spring Awakening from my end. One announcement for you all. I am hosting Astro Book Club with Liza Minnelli's memoir. That is actually happening next Sunday, March 29th.
Ooh.
And what I'm trying to do with the book club is, so many of us, I think, struggle with astrology in the sense that, like, I know this cookbook here and I know that placement there. But when it comes to really synthesizing the chart, that's where, people kind of run into trouble with. And so my goal with these book clubs moving forward is to really practice chart integration. How you actually take the memoir, study it, and actually apply it to the chart, which can then be very helpful in applying it to yourself as well. So, if you're interested, I have some tickets
Yeah.
available. I'll be providing an astro-informed guide to guide the discussion on how to integrate the chart. And also, as a spring sale, my Cosmic Quickies, my 30-minute sessions are $100 till the Aries new moon on April 17th. The last new beginning coming through. Because it's just
That's
been
my Saturn
nonstop.
return, that new moon. That
Wow,
would
what a
be.
loaded Aries new moon Saturn return. Okay.
I
Sh-
know.
She's becoming. She's becoming
We're
this spring.
becoming. We're becoming. It
Amen.
might be uncomfortable with both malefics there, but we're living life, we're showing up.
In my experience covering a lot of pop culture, what I've realized is if you are doing things in line with like whether it's your purpose or even let's say you've not figured out your purpose yet, but if you're stepping into more creativity, right, which I think this spring is beckoning for the courage to step into that creativity, it can actually play out in a better way than you might even think. But I'm excited for
We'll
you.
see. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm excited for you, but you know who I am also not maybe as excited for? Taylor, Frankie,
Ooh,
Paul. So,
girl.
question for you. Were you a Bachelor Nation person? I can't remember if I've asked you this question before. I think I
I
have.
I was not the most devoted, yet I was. Like
Hmm.
I watched like Hannah Brown, I
Hmm.
watched Pilot Pete. Growing up, I caught like episodes here and there, like Rachel Lindsay, an icon.
Yes, yes.
Um, so I know a bit about Bachelor lore, yes. However, I haven't watched any of the recent seasons. I don't think since Matt James I kind of checked out. Or maybe
Oh.
Michelle after her season I checked out.
Okay, that's a good call. I'm in the similar boat. I used to be very, very into The Bachelor. And admittedly, there was once after I graduated from college, I was like literally studying for my GREs at a Barnes and Noble in Austin. And there was an open call for The Bachelor, literally like right next door. And I was like, let me see what's this all about. And I thought I would like get a free drink or something, like at 21. And literally, no, I had to like I would have to buy the hotel lobby drinks. The line was so incredibly long. And it
Wait,
was
you had to
just
buy the hotel lobby drinks?
Oh yeah, because like it was so long, people they were not providing anything, and everyone's like, just go to the hotel lobby and get stuff.
Oh, okay. I
hmm
see. Now the
And
math
then
is mathing.
it was also hilarious because like there would be so many girls, like they'd put you in one room and then they'd bring you to another room. And then literally like all of us somehow randomly decided we were gonna be a group. And therefore, like if anyone makes it to the next round, you like would tell like these relationships form so quickly. And it's so fascinating to see that happen just at open call
Wow.
versus like when you get on the show, you're probably like so like this is my tribe and we now have this bond and like we're loyal to each other. It's so bizarre. I'm not gonna
What a
lie.
fun side quest you went on.
My SAG moon's always like open call. Sure, let's see what is coming up here.
Wow.
So full circle that we now get to talk about the Bachelorette via astrology because this has always just been part of our psyche. So
Yes.
ABC has never officially pulled a show before the season's already begun. They spent so much money on marketing, so much money on promos, like everything was so good to go. There was even that extended special post the Oscars where all the bachelorettes came to give her advice. And what I found was so suspicious was literally the day after spoilers for The Bachelor started to come out, even before they were threatening to pull her off the air, or even before the video of the incident, of the DV incident
Mm.
came up. So I do feel like there's definitely more to the story, of course. And then, ABC's hand got forced when the video came out, which had you seen the video? Like, you've seen the video by now.
I've seen the video now. That was really hard to watch.
And for the
Yeah.
record, there's no one placement that causes DV or one
No,
placement
not at
that
all.
instigates this type of behavior. I just want to be very clear because, my platform and what I try to do as the pop astrologist is I offer context, but I break down transit. I don't impose judgment if this person's done wrong or not. I'm just curious about what's happening in your life that's causing us
Mhm.
all to participate in this collective water cooler moment. Taylor Frankie Paul's chart is a controversial one because naturally she has a Gemini sun and Scorpio moon, which on its own, again, are not bad placements, right? Kendrick Lamar is a Gemini sun. And then when you think about a Scorpio moon, I mean, you know, that's not all bad either. It's a planet in fall, it's a luminary in fall, but it's not a bad placement. So again, no bad placements, you guys.
Clocking in as the local Scorpio moon. It is interesting, like, Gemini and Scorpios do have a reputation that precede them. Like, even I think people who aren't into astrology, there is no one placement that's like good or bad, especially like on a moral level. You could say Libra is a planet or a sign that is justice oriented.
hmm
Hitler was a Libra rising, it's like,
Peter Thiel's a Libra.
right. The astrology gives us this language, these symbols, understand the world around us. That's one of the things I think it does. In Taylor Frankie Paul's chart, so let's pull up her chart.
We don't know her rising sign.
Like it's not
We
confirmed, yeah.
No, I mean, I have my suspicions, but nothing set
Your
in
suspicion
stone.
is it a Leo rising?
I kind of do because of the hair, or at the very least, Leo has to be in like the 10th house or seventh, like something where this
Mm.
hair is so apparent to people. I don't know. There's just something there, even though I have heard Virgo rising could make sense as well, given the Mercury retrograde station that happened this week. That would be in her seventh house of relationships. So maybe even just taking it back before we dive into her chart, the reason why this is such a big deal, even astrologically speaking, this show was basically pulled the day that Mercury was stationing or like gearing up to clear its retrograde, right? We're still in the shadow period till April 9th, but it is this idea of this is the turning point, voila, and then now we move forward. This is picking up from recent investigations that stemmed from around Feb 24th, 25th, which was right around the time that Mercury started to also station retrograde. So this is very much a retrograde bookending story. The idea of the new
Yeah.
investigation that's come up and then the result of what has happened. And because it's retrograde, it's dredging up even past situations dealing with this very on the
Right.
nose timing wise from an astrology perspective.
Totally. So yeah, I love what you said about retrograde. I'm over here on my astral saying like when did Mercury station? So, with any transit, right? Like let's utilize this as like how did this story unfold?
Mm-hmm.
So Mercury stationed retrograde in February. It was specifically around February 25th, 26th. So this is
Mm-hmm.
towards the end, and before that, it was in what's we call the pre-retrograde shadow. So basically, Mercury is in the degrees that it's going to go retrograde already, but it's still before the retrograde. According to news reports, Dakota had spoken to ABC, or someone had spoken to ABC, and this is all alleged based on, what I'm reading on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
in February. Like basically, there were already
Mm-hmm.
these conversations happening behind the scenes. And something that was happening in February also was we were having Venus in Pisces, and Venus
Mm-hmm.
is exalted in Pisces. Um, and and Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Pisces. And so, and also exalted. So maybe you could say there's a level of protection, perhaps a woman is getting here. There was this funny post on Threads I saw recently where someone was like, exalted planets are like the spoiled brats or something hilarious. And everyone with exalted planets were like, yes, we are.
That is amazing because I have actually felt that as a Venus and Virgo person with Venus and Pisces. With Venus and Virgo, I can do a lot with very little, and Venus and Pisces, there was too much. I couldn't even figure out what to do. It
That's
was like
so
overtly
funny.
excessive. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you were like, this is a bit much.
Yes, yes.
Venus and Virgo is like, I'm very mindful. I'm very
Yeah.
demure. So yeah, like Venus and Pisces, like the exalted placement, right? And I think Alice Barkley Cat has spoken about this years ago, where it's like
Mm,
the pressure that, for example, domicile or exalted placements may feel. And I think about like how much money ABC has invested in Taylor Frankie Paul. We've known about this incident. I don't think we knew the details that the video
mm-hmm.
revealed, but we knew like there was something about throwing chairs. It was
Mm-hmm.
on Secret Life of Mormon Wives, like episode 1.
Literally.
It's interesting. Yeah, this is information from the past. And it sounds like maybe around this retrograde, or like maybe in the pre retrograde shadow, some of these conversations were already happening directly. And then Mercury went Kazemi. I'm going to look. Do you
March
remember the
7th.
dates?
March
March
7th. Because
7.
that was an important date in this saga as well, because that was when Mom Talk went to talk to ABC executives and basically said we do not want to film with her, or they're the one that called for the
Oh.
pause.
Okay, okay. Oh, that was the news. In February, there was apparently another DV incident,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly,
That
and that's when the
24th,
conversations
25th.
got started. Then, okay,
Yes.
then on Mercury Kazemi, Mom
Yes.
Talk, the women, they
Yes.
went in and spoke to the execs to let, like, okay, wow. So they were like they had the light bulb moment. They were that. And it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like the execs kept moving forward.
Yeah, which is also interesting because Jupiter stationed direct like 3 days later, right? So when you think about Jupiter in Cancer and Mom Talk, the symbolism is so
That's tea.
loud.
That's really tea. Yeah, like, oh my gosh. And it's also on the fixed star Sirius right now, Jupiter
Mm-hmm.
station. And one of the themes of Sirius, so Sirius is the brightest fixed star of the sky
Mm-hmm.
of all time at this moment. And some of the themes here are you shine really bright and you're a bright light, and your darkness and your shadows are just as prominent. I
Mm-hmm.
think Elon Musk is someone else who has a serious placement.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I think
right,
so. Yes.
right. And so while this is a star of eminence, of success, of you could say fame, or being known, being seen as a star, and all these discussions of, is Taylor Frankie Paul the leader of Mom Talk? Do we vote her as president of Mom Talk? And
Right.
like even online though, when those episodes dropped a couple of seasons ago, when
Mm-hmm.
Demi was trying to take down,
Coup.
yeah, set a coup for the leadership on Mom Talk. It's so fucking funny to me. But people rode for Taylor. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? people rode for that authenticity. There's this like, yes, she has this like shadow side to her. That's not, I think she could also be a Cancer rising. That's another rising I've considered for Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the Venus would maybe, it's not as much as the Leo-esque hair. However, I think the Venus, like being known for a beauty thing, could be that. But oh
Mm-hmm.
man, her like moon as Scorpio, it's like I'm going through and I'm being honest about it and I'm authentic. And yeah, I've hit rock bottom. I've hit rock bottom. Yeah, I sure have. But I'm being honest about it. And I think
Yeah.
there's that energy that Moon in Scorpio has. Another celebrity who has Moon in Scorpio is Beyonce. If you like listen to some of her song lyrics, you're like, wow, like you love this man very intensely. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and even her song like Jealous, that's off of Self-Titled, I think is a very like good Scorpio moon song. But there's, this intensity of emotion and she leads with that. So whether or not she's a Cancer rising, I think that moon, it's with Jupiter and it's with the North Node. And wherever the North Node plus Jupiter, it's like it turns the dial up on that shit, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
North Node is close to Pluto, which I'll let you speak on because,
As a Pluto
yeah.
rising person, whenever astrologers say like, "Do we count the outers?" I'm like, "Oh my God, like all I feel is Pluto in my life, so I hope we do. If not, what am I doing here?" But, as an evolutionary astrologer, when there are planets that hover around the North Node or cradling the North Node, it can almost imply obstacles. Or this is what's the brick wall of reality staring you down, or this is also what like you're yearning for. And as such, you get into some self-undoing because that is so much of what I want that I almost like can't even see beyond the tragedy or the trauma to really like rise up above it. So it is fascinating with Taylor Frankie, Paul Pluto, and the North Node, almost like every kind of major success on some level for her. I do think, not to say she will always confront trauma or always like have this really intense up and down cycle, but to be honest, though, part of it is she is the vessel as much as maybe from a material perspective, like the status quo can't fully recognize that or appreciate what she's also doing, but she is playing out some really intense trauma, not just for herself, but on behalf of like her lines and actually like doing it to help alchemize that for us all. The way that we say like, oh, that person sucks, or like we all hate this person now. And it's almost like we are all still a part of each other. And so we give off a
We
part
are
of
not
ourselves.
separate from each
Exactly.
other. I think Taylor Frankie Paul and just even this whole show of Secret Life of Mormon Wives, like I didn't know much about Mormonism and
Hmm.
or like, the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saint.
You should look at the chart because the chart is charting. It's like, it's
Oh,
so incredible with the way
oh
that
my gosh.
Real Housewives of Salt Lake and Mom Talk have like come up as this next generation to bring the chart forward. You'd be so into that, I think.
Oh, okay, I have to look into that. It's truly like its own subculture.
Yeah.
And I think the cycles that Taylor Frankie Paul is living out, obviously, I do think every individual is responsible for their own actions, etc. And at the same time, Taylor Frankie Paul does not live in a vacuum. She
Hmm.
lives within the context of Utah and the church and everything that that brings. It's interesting because so much of mom talk is both like this girl power, women power. We can be breadwinners and we can run businesses and we can
Hmm.
be that girl. But there's still that element of being really caught in these weird power dynamics with men. That Pluto North Node, like to me, Pluto
Hmm.
is like power dynamics. Every time she has a success, every time she's about to have a premiere, since she's been in a relationship with Dakota, he has tried to sabotage that in some
Hmm.
way. And the other ladies in Montauk, specifically Macy and Layla, I think have named that of how he particularly chooses the moments where she's about to win, she's about to have her moment. And boom,
Hmm.
it's back in this cycle, this power dynamic. The
Yeah.
fact that, yeah, as you pointed out, like, so we talked about the Mercury Kazemi, where it's stationed, or had the Kazemi, the women had their meeting, and now that Mercury is direct Bachelorette is canceled and there is this reckoning happening. Oh my gosh, I wonder if
Hmm.
she has mutable signs angular in her chart. That would be interesting.
Honestly, that's why the Virgo rising also like again, it's like Cancer, Leo, Virgo, right? Like it's that like trio of energy that makes sense. I just was curious about the Mormon church because I remember looking at it, and
Whoa.
what's cool is the Venus and Pisces that you were alluding to earlier, right? And the idea that Taylor's Frankie's
Perfect.
literally that Saturn
The
is.
reckoning.
Yes, exactly. She is the vessel. She is the karmic lesson via her Saturn return as part of this story.
I'm gooped and I'm gagged. That's crazy because like this Mercury retrograde is also happening over her Saturn and
Hmm.
therefore it's pinging that degree. Wait, I'm fascinated by Sun pretty much at its like near its exaltation degree in the Mormon
Right?
church. Like that makes sense as how prom and exalted Mars with
Hmm.
Jupiter. Oh my God. This is
Yeah.
okay. I have
This
to
was
think about this another
protected.
time.
This chart, the Mormon church chart is like ridiculous, actually.
That's
Like,
ridiculous.
but I just found that Venus, Saturn, just so on the nose. Taylor Frankie Paul Lilith, yeah, on the Mormon church Chiron.
That's so tea. No, it's because it's like if you try to push these women to be perfect, right? Venus and
Hmm.
Pisces, that ideal, but also make it look effortless and da da
Hmm.
da da da. Da. What really happens to a society like I don't know, 200-ish years later? Wow, that's really interesting. Because Saturn, the difference between Saturn and Mars as malefics from a traditional lens is that Saturn is long-term consequences, right? It's the
Mm.
issues that come from you neglecting things or ignoring things versus like Mars problems is like, oh shit, I left my cigarette on the floor. Now my house is on fire. Oh no.
Both
That's
still burned
Mars.
down.
Right. And then like the aftermath of that, that's Saturn, right? That's the
Hmm.
like, the chronic issues. So wow, that's so tea.
Going back to like the timeline that you were alluding to, like the Kazemi turning point, the Jupiter station, one thing that I will also add is there is this like formal investigation going on, but there's also the back and forth between Dakota and Taylor. That's behind everything happening as well. It's not just Dakota and it's not just Taylor. It is the both of them in conversation with each other. And part of the reason why spoilers, what I referred to earlier, started to emerge literally the day after the Oscars and like the Bachelorette special was because, spoiler alert, I guess the season's canceled, so who cares? Taylor doesn't actually like she chooses someone, but she dumps him and then she's like kind of back with Dakota. And she also slept with Dakota the night before she goes off to be the Bachelorette. And then she has to tell the men that in the middle of the season. And then a lot of them kind of feel like weird about it, but then, people move on. But all to say, it is not entirely clear cut. And I do think that the video then kind of became a scapegoat because the season's already ruined. There was too much information already coming out about the behind the scenes drama that now this also, to add
Wow.
on, creates like a whole shitstorm. World systems are changing and new leaders are rising. It also feels like there could be potentially room for a new leader and mom talk to come up through too.
So, whoa, as you were sharing that, a couple of things like struck me as I'm looking at this. So
Mm.
currently Saturn is in a superior square to her natal Venus. Now Saturn's in the early degrees of Aries, her Venus is in the early degrees of Cancer. And
Yep.
so literally like love struggles. And another thing is that Miss Taylor Frankie Paul is born, it looks like in at the buildup of an eclipse. It looks like
Yeah,
there's an
she's a
eclipse.
she's definitely an eclipse baby S because that is within the range of the orb
It's
to
within
hit.
18 degrees of the nodes. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It's interesting because Chris Brennan, on a more global level, has been pointing out a lot of the world leaders, major players in the current war shitstorm that is worldly circumstances, are
Yeah.
born on eclipses. And it's interesting that on a more like reality TV, entertainment, pop culture level, that is interesting that she also is an eclipse baby. Is there another eclipse baby in Mom Talk?
Let me see Whitney's chart. I feel like Whitney is like thriving away from all
She
of.
says
Oh,
this.
no,
Okay,
no.
let's.
Who else is in Mom Talk that we have maybe? Jessi. Am I spelling her name? She had her divorce too.
Wait, will you
Mm.
stay at Jessi for 1 second? I just want to
Oh,
clock something.
yeah, yeah, of course.
The Mercury Cazimi that we had was on Miss Jessie's moon. So,
We don't
like,
know her
that's
time, but yes, 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 yes.
yeah. Oh, right.
Mm-hmm.
Because the degree. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially close to her moon, depending on the time of birth. Okay, that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Also, Uranus on Mercury, Venus, right? Like when
Oh,
you think
that
about
part
a
is, yeah.
total like shake up when it comes to that dynamic, that makes a lot of sense. Freedom for both parties involved.
Honestly, let them be free.
That-
Get, what's his name? Jordan? His
Jordan.
name. Get him off my screen.
Yeah, I'm so done with dad talk. She had her whole like plastic surgery thing recently, right? When she had gotten plastic surgery but didn't like the results of it,
On
and then
her Venus.
yeah, so Uranus again. I wonder if she got it when it was Mercury retrograde or something, and now like having second thoughts about it. But Uranus on Venus
Oh,
can do a lot about beauty standards and also
and
like
self-image. Yeah.
yes, exactly. Let me see if Dakota
Let's
like
look at Dakota.
no, not an Eclipse baby either. So Taylor, so far of the few, like, and it would make sense. Like, she really is the one that is getting
Wow.
lambasted.
Look at his Mars Gatorade
I
in Cancer.
know. And Jupiter stationing on that, right? Like five degrees, but
Right,
like,
5 degrees close. Okay, that's really interesting because we don't know either of their birth times. However, Miss
mm-hmm,
Taylor Frankie Paul has her Venus in the first decan of Cancer. And so the fact that
mm-hmm,
his Mars is retrograde, which means moving backwards, so moving towards that Venus, like I feel like that really speaks to their like toxic, can't quit it cycle, you know?
mm-hmm.
That's pretty striking.
Someone
And
pointed
wow.
out this is like a very Wuthering Heights relationship. We talk about the
Ooh.
toxicity. And what I think is interesting is in Emerald Fennell's chart and Emily Bronte's chart, there's a Venus and Mars conjunction in Virgo. So in synastry between Dakota and Frankie, there is
They
this
have
Venus and
that
Mars
similar.
connection. It is very Heathcliff Cathy coded. Definitely.
Dang. Wow. And the fact that her Saturn trines his Mars,
Mm.
which trines her Jupiter,
Mm.
Moon. Yeah, like trines, generally speaking, are positive. However, what they mean by positive is it's an easy flow of energy. There's
Mm-hmm.
a really like harmonious flow going on here. But sometimes there can be a harmonious flow of conflict and
Mm-hmm.
disharmony. And being in that Mars retrograde in Cancer loop.
She has this Mars in Aries. He may be an Aries moon. We don't know. But
Oh, she could be at Mars in Taurus. I think it switches around 4:30 p.m.
oh, that day.
that
Yes, because
day.
it's only
Mars
like nine
switches.
minutes left. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I lean towards the Mars in Aries at
Same.
29, but
Same.
potentially she could have Mars in Taurus.
My mom has Mars in Aries. She's also got an Aries stellium in her chart with the South Node. And let me tell you, I had enough things thrown at me, and the rage gets to, not to say that like it's justifiable, but when you talk about the god of war in its sign of rulership and like it's
In
empowered.
its fiery sign too. Like,
Exactly.
yeah, I think generally speaking, this is not
Mm-hmm.
hashtag not all Aries Mars, hashtag not all Taurus Mars, but generally
Mm-hmm.
the nature of an Aries Mars is much more impulsive, act first, think later,
Mm-hmm.
versus a Taurus Mars can explode. There's a lot of like endurance athletes who have Mars and Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they it's like poking a bull, right? It's like they're
Mm.
probably not gonna like lash out at you until you poke them that last time. Then you have a bull chasing you. So good luck. But I think the nature of that is a little different based on the
Mm-hmm.
personality that we've seen. Now, again,
Mm-hmm.
nuance,
Mm-hmm.
but just even with how quick she gets in fights, like with the
Mm-hmm.
girls and or like defensive of other girls, protective of other girls. And I think that Mars in that sextile with Mercury makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mercury and Gemini, that's a really strong Mercury. And I see why they get along. Like they have
Yes.
like the trine, right? Like the Gemini, the Aquarius, all of the water stuff I named earlier. Like there is a reason that they get along.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I also see the cycle.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like when you talk about synastry and compatibility, everyone, it takes work. It doesn't just mean if you have good synastry, it's already going to be great. If it has bad synastry, it's going to be shit. But it does take work and friction and conflict, especially for someone that has a potential Mars Aries at 29. And admittedly, the 29 is so compelling too, because At an energetic degree, you would think about there'd be some really intense challenges akin to like the final year of college, and you're about to take these tests to graduate from the sign, right? And what you're supposed to learn with the sign. So the test will be harder, but it's not because it's designed to fail you. It is because you've already learned all of this. It's hard, but you've learned it. And so you've got to embody the highest vibration of that if possible, which with Mars and Aries means I have a deeper control of my rage as part of this,
That
right?
makes sense.
The emotional
Wow.
reactivity and how it gets in the way. Because as much as I want to say someone is sabotaging me as someone with Scorpio placements, we all know it is very much also about what am I doing to facilitate the sabotage as part of my
Mm,
subconscious pull as well. Because this is just getting me to
that's
recognize
deep.
something. So if I want
Right.
this, I can't keep going back to the old. It's going to get taken away because I'm not done with the old. Pluto's fair in that way. Again, I'm not comfortable with language explicitly like Dakota is the asshole in the room or, it's all in Taylor. They both play a role in this dynamic, and it's important for both to like take accountability around
Right.
that.
I think it's interesting that her Mercury is on his South Node, and like a thing
Mm-hmm.
that she says a lot is like, "You're not listening. You don't hear me." And it's
Mm.
like I think one way to conceptualize the South Node is like it's emptiness. There's a lack of something there. Also the fact that his or her Venus is on his Juno is
Yeah.
giving, that's my wifey. That's
There's a
my
soul
wife.
contract. I
And she's
know.
like,
Oh.
"No, I'm not your wife."
Not
Yeah.
not anymore. Or not yet. I don't know. Like I feel
She
like
never, I think the first season of Secret Life of Mormon Wives, when she was pregnant, everyone was like, "You
mm,
need to marry him." And she was like, "No, I'm not gonna marry him. I'm just gonna have his
mm.
baby." And that was like a big storyline in the first season.
I mean, there has been a lot about, like, oh, Taylor is under the guise of like reactive abuse. I'm not here to comment either or on it, but what I can say is between the both of them, there are natural triggers in the chart, but then because of the trine that you mentioned, they just keep in flow. It's not one breaking out, it's just perpetually both contributing to this like closed loop of energy.
Right. I'm not going to make a judgment. Like all we know is their behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what we know of their behavior from what is filmed and also published and shared publicly. And so
Yes.
it's hard to make like a full evaluation. I think something really important though here is like these things are much more common. I think it's funny some not okay, it's not fun. Funny is a bad word. Sorry, I have Mars and Gemini.
I was gonna say
But
Scorpio moon, dark humor.
dark humor, abuse,
Mm-hmm.
violence in the home, toxic relationships. These things are unfortunately not rare. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, I think it's funny sometimes with the discourse that happens online and the way
Mm-hmm.
people clutch their pearls as if they don't know this would ever happen anywhere and this is a unique type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think in terms of clutching pearls at the violence and at the harm, like, hearing, oh, I heard the video,
Mm-hmm.
hearing her daughter cry, it was like
That was tough.
heartbreaking.
That was
Yeah, and
tough.
to me, I'm like, that's what I'm centering. I'm centering the kids. I'm centering like
Yes.
people getting care. I think Taylor Frankie Paul should take a break from being in front of a camera. I think Dakota should also do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, something we can all glean from these experiences is the actions of, for example, our social circle. For example,
Mm.
Taylor and Dakota's relationship and the behaviors and the violence taking place within that was impacting the entire group of moms. It
Mm.
wasn't just, we think of self-sabotage or self-harm or like, in this contained way, but it's not contained. It hurts the
Mm.
kids, it hurts their friends, it hurts, perhaps, it's a whole community. It's how many people are seeing this story and seeing their own childhood or seeing their own relationship or seeing someone they know's relationship, play out. It is about Taylor and Dakota, obviously. It's in the terms of this story. However, this pattern of behavior is so much bigger than them. Like if we think about her Pluto, like, or just the energy of Pluto or like Saturn, right? These are the slow moving planetary bodies in our sky. What are the patterns and the structures and the systems that create environments to make this happen. And I think
Mm.
about like what we can do in our own worlds, centering, for example, the kids. Like, this is kind of a random example to give, but I think of like when we're at the grocery store and there's like a random kid crying and you can just like see like the stressed out parent,
Mm.
I don't know if this is making sense. Mercury's in Pisces, and I've been like the opposite of eloquent lately. But
And it's a Neptune Kazemi, so words come
it's
as
a
they need.
Neptune. Yeah, this is how I feel. Me and this Texas tag.
Swig.
Swag. Hashtag not sponsored. Hashtag available to be sponsored.
Yes.
But what reality TV does is it gives us an opportunity to see like our very real human patterns that are happening in our society, in our context. Like, this is a totally different random side note, but like I'm watching Vanderpump Rules,
Oh, the
and
new
that's a
one?
no, the old one.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that's such a show of its time. Like, I'm
Mm.
currently like it's currently 2015, 2016 and the seasons I'm
Oh
watching.
gosh.
And at this time, being the cool girl, or what in 2026 now we call the pick me, was very much in, and it was like
Hmm.
I thought I watched the show at that time, I would have perceived these people differently. Now looking at it 10 years later with, more thinking, more brain development, more all the things, I'm able to see those patterns, right? Like that were kind of plaguing the social circles
Hmm.
at that time. Like what I experienced as a college student was being mirrored here in Vanderpump Rules. So interesting. Maybe not those exact things, but right, the anthropological things of it all. So I don't know.
Hmm.
I think about this in terms of this domestic violence situation, again, because I don't think it's as rare. And I
Mm-mm.
think that like a lot of people feel lonely, right? And disconnected lately. It's like in a way we're so hyper connected in a social media way. And we're all having these discourses around these topics, but like a lot of times I feel like people don't get to the feeling or the heart of it, or like can connect with other people on the real pain that these things
Hmm.
have. I don't know if this is making sense, but
No, I
yeah.
hear you and I get that. And honestly, like I think that's why I've always felt so drawn to pop culture, even though like, it has such a bad rap, right? And it's like not intellectual or whatever, but it is intellectual brain
It
rot,
is.
LOL. It is the idea that they are still reflecting a core essence. I mean, even Chloe Zhao has said this. Like, sure, there's production, sure, there's editing, but you know what? What of us do not go through editing ourselves, right? We put things up online, it's curated, we have filters, maybe not anymore in Saturn, Neptune, Aries era, but it is the idea that reality TV will still reflect back a part of the human experience. It is archetypes playing out, it is myth playing out, and they have a responsibility of either reflecting back culture or also the added responsibility of shaping culture as a function of
Right.
it.
Yes, T. No, pop culture is intellectual. Reality TV is intellectual. If you engage your brain while doing anything, anything can be intellectual, period. Let's look
Absolutely.
at the chart for when the announcement of the cancellation went live,
Yes.
because to me
Do
that
you
was
have the
so
time?
T. Yes,
Because I saw you posted on Threads and
it was 12:48 p.m. I looked at the timestamp of an article.
yeah,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
the article I saw. Oh, and it was in Pacific time. It was like Los Angeles time,
Oh.
because it was like
Yes.
almost 3 p.m. in my location.
Thursday or Friday was when it came out.
I think it was the
Day.
19th. I
Yeah,
think it was
because
the 19th.
it would make sense because it's like a huge announcement. Friday
Moon
is
was in
kind of like
Aries.
for a wash. Yes, and it was literally in between Venus and Saturn at that
Yes.
time. So
Okay, yeah, this is the
enclosed,
chart.
besieged. Yes.
Oh, okay. So like this is so fascinating to me. So one, like, okay,
Hmm.
Jupiter in Cancer rising, right? And if we think about like this whole like mom talk vibe, like this, just like I think that's such a representation. Honestly, when I saw this, I was like, I think it's gonna be a little bit okay. I think hopefully the fallout
Hmm.
of this, I guess it depends. Maybe this means ABC will be okay because ABC is the one who's doing the cancellation of it. But what
Right.
else was striking to me is the tightest aspect to the ascendant is Mars trine the ascendant. And
Hmm.
one of the ancient symbols for Mars is like scissors or like a knife. So you can kind of think the power to just cut something. And so literally a cancellation. So yeah, I think always think the tightest aspect to the ascendant is always something interesting to look at. And then we can see in the 10th house what the helly is going on. We have Saturn, we have Moon, we have Venus, and then we also have Neptune and Chiron. Okay, so those are interesting to clock. Saturn and Neptune, just as a whole, is like dissolving structures. Like if you think
Mm-hmm.
of something as steady in our pop culture as like The Bachelorette, like yeah, it's kind of going through a flop era or a weird era, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
Bachelor Nation these last few years, but it's still been a really steady pillar of pop culture, if that makes sense. And here we
Yes.
are, like Neptune's here, just let me just dissolve a little bit of here and a little bit of that. We have to rethink the entire structure. I think also another recent Neptune Saturn story is like MTV stopped airing music videos or something.
Yeah.
I was like, that's similar
Also,
vibe.
I was not aware that MTV was still putting videos out. I'm not gonna
I
lie.
didn't know
Like,
that.
I was like, oh,
At
it's
first, I was
done.
like outraged because of nostalgia, and then I was like, wait, who watches
When-
this? Who does this affect my life? I was like, I'm just going on vibes.
Right,
Hilarious. But
right.
this moon is moving away from a conjunction with that Saturn Neptune, right? It's separating, and
Mm-hmm.
it's moving towards a square with Jupiter and a conjunction with Venus. And just to have Venus, a signifier of women, in the sign of its exile. And we
Mm-hmm.
can in a Mars ruled sign. This is about violence. And also another interesting thing, like Huda from season 7 of Love Island, also
Yes.
having, right?
Around the same time, like the
Around the same
same.
time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. Again, this like exiled or like violent woman. And then we also have Saturn in fall. And like Saturn in the 10th, like yes, Jupiter in Cancer kind of has like yay hee hee vibes, but Saturn here in the 10th is like authority figure striking down. And I also
Mm-hmm.
think of like Saturn as like structures, and it's like they y'all had the warning pieces of this. Y'all knew
Yeah.
about her record. And a
Yeah.
lot of people told y'all that this was a liability from the beginning, not just because I think Taylor Frankie Paul should be punished forever, but because like y'all are putting millions of dollars into this into a role that impacts someone's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the Bees has this phrase where he talks about like on reality TV, like I forget what he calls like a mentally fragile profile or like
Mm-hmm.
psychologically fragile profile or something of that nature. And yeah, like Taylor Frankie Paul has been shown to be psychologically needing more TLC than she needs a fucking microscope analyzing every micro expression of her face.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what people do on reality TV. Have you been on Reddit? I know y'all have executives, but like I
Right.
just think it's so interesting having these like undignified planets in the 10th, right? This
Mm-hmm.
fall from grace that trait Taylor Frankie Paul has had, and then also this experience of exile because of an act of violence from a woman.
Mm.
And like that's so tea. So those are some of my thoughts. I'm curious to hear yours.
Poetry in
Thank you,
motion
thank you.
with
Sip a
astrology and
swig.
pop culture. Super swing!
Cheers.
Just as a reference, right? Neha is a Hellenistic traditional astrologer, in addition to so many other beautiful things, right? But that's like the foundation of her education. And so it's cool for me as well as another astrologer who comes from a different lineage. Like it's always just, it just feels so good. It just feels so
When
good.
great minds meet.
Yes, yes. I wish I had a swig to cheers you,
I'm
but
screwed.
one thing that does come to mind for me as well is we did have a Pisces new moon this week. Okay. So
Right,
all
this
of
is on the heels of the new moon.
literally like this is it's almost as if the seed got planted Wednesday. So word hadn't come out yet around what they were going to do with the Bachelorette. But that was the day that I think Dakota filed for the restraining order and for sole custody or something, right? Like earlier
Mm.
Wednesday in the dark leading up to the new moon that happened closer to 9 p.m. Eastern time Wednesday. So if you see here, even in this transit chart, that 29-degree, that Pisces sun that was like a big part of that lunation, right? That's hitting the midheaven. So the effect of this new beginning being broadcast or the spotlight at this moment. And then also you think, okay, the midheaven, is in the ninth house, right? So it is something to do with broadcasting, but also when you think about how can we maybe use this as an opportunity from the executive perspective to expand our reach? Because this is the most, regardless if it was good or bad press, if you're in reality
It was
TV,
press, baby.
people are so invested in this show in a way that they have not been invested in years. Like there are all these rumors, right? Miranda, Layla, Alana, Mar, right? The rugby star. Like
Mm,
Janae Craig, like people are throwing names up in here. And, Katie Maloney, I think, was also speaking of Vanderpump, was like, is this not an opportunity for them to go, let's go full Love Island mode and just keep the existing men? Because ABC also told them that their contract was going to be honored for the next year. So what that means is it kind of feels like there's an opening to use the same cohort of men, very retrograde coded, for an actual
very.
redo with potentially, I'm not saying it's going to be a Mormon mom, but ABC is a pretty Christian network. And it's
Yeah.
not the issue with Mormonism here, it's the issue with the one person representing the
Right.
Mormonism.
I
So it's
think that's so fascinating because we have a Venus retrograde in the fall, followed by a Mars retrograde, like
yes.
early 2027. And usually, like, like, whichever one is the bigger Bachelor or Bachelorette show, doesn't that premiere like in January usually? And
Yes,
that's when Mars
yes,
would go retrograde. So it's like
exactly.
these men, we had to hit them for a rerun.
Or maybe there's
Oh,
even the
because
idea that they come back up during Venus retrograde in the fall, right? Like,
yeah, like maybe that's when they film or something, or maybe
yeah,
that's when they release the new Bachelor. Maybe they film soon. I think there could be some sort of tie-in with those retrogrades coming up. That's so tea.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
this is such like a simple note, but like this week we've had Mercury, North Node, and
Hmm.
Pisces all together. And like North Node turns the dial up. Mars, she a little violent. And
Hmm.
Mercury likes to yap. There's been a plethora, an abundance of violent
Yes.
headlines this week. And I just think that's like what a simple delineation, but like literal.
Oh, totally. At this moment in time, Mercury was stationed. There was no movement. It was gearing up to finally wake up. So it was a stillness, which, when you think about Mercury ruling the South Node for Taylor Frankie Paul, the past comes back to bite with the moment of silence, especially if it's not
That's so tea.
dealt with yet. Because this is the other side of it. I know a lot of people are like, she's already been convicted of this. Why are we damning her again for something she's already done? To that I say, yes, but the attitude around the way she is handling it after that point felt a little off to me, because she was making these TikToks last summer about like jokingly referencing this violent incident. Mercury retrogrades for Taylor Frankie Paul are significant moments in time, especially since that first DV incident happened in, I think, that August timeframe. To me, the second half of this year with October, November, and the Venus
She was
retrograde.
arrested in February 17th, 2023.
Oh, you know what? That Pluto then moved into Aquarius then at that time, right? In March coming up. So
We were
Feb
about to have
17.
Saturn was finishing in Aquarius and about to move into Pisces on March 7th,
March was that
2023.
big month. Yeah, because Mars had just, oh, you know what it was? Mars was clearing its retrograde
I'm
because she and
curious what
Dakota got together, I think, during the Mars Gemini retrograde in
retrograde.
2022.
That makes
Hmm.
sense. Would you pull up February 17th, 2023? I'm just
Yes.
curious.
Yes, yes, yes. Feb
And we could put
17th.
it at night. Let's say like maybe like 9 p.m. or 10. I don't know exactly what time it was, but
Salt Lake
probably at
City.
night.
Yeah, 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 because it was night.
Yeah.
For,
Um,
so Sun Saturn, which we do have Sun Saturn this week
mm,
as well on Wednesday.
oh, yeah, we do. We do have a Kazemi.
Hmm.
Wow, that moon
Pluto, Moon,
Pluto.
very. Jupiter was in Aries. So it makes at that 9-degree mark. So it makes sense that the early degree Aries is now filling up and it's almost like pulling back from that time even. Venus was in Pisces at that time
Right.
too.
It looks like South Node was on her Jupiter potentially, and North and Mars, yeah, had recently stationed direct in Gemini.
Literally on her Jupiter.
Mm,
Hmm.
wow.
When you were talking about the Mercury and the South Node connection between Dakota and her, not that I personally believe in this concept, but because Gemini symbolism is twins, the idea of like the twin flame thing, like the toxic relationship thing, quote unquote, just kept coming up. But in evolutionary astrology, if your South Node is conjunct someone's like Mercury, there is a sense of being wrapped up in someone else's narrative or being perceived like this person's smarter than you or something and just never
Mm.
getting your voice to shine. So it's interesting that his South Node is in Gemini and hers is Mercury. So like again, the idea that, he's wrapped up in like the centering of Taylor Frankie Paul in a way, and then like how he chooses to handle that, whether it's like my
He's
ego
only
can't handle
famous
it.
because of her. The
Yes,
only reason we know
exactly.
anything about him is because of her.
hmm
Yeah.
So I didn't realize, or not fully recognize Taylor's Sun Chiron square hard in terms of being able to see
Natally,
yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a random note, but what you were talking about, the Mercury stationing in Pisces and like the moment of silence and like the
hmm
stillness, like Mercury in the water signs traditionally are said to be mute. So there is a sense of silence or the
mm
sense of like I sometimes see it as like nonverbal communications. It's like Mercury and Cancer, like someone doesn't have to say I'm sad for you to notice their body language, for example.
Or or the vibe shift
The
being
vibe
like
shift.
all of a sudden you walk in a room and it's like, ooh, something's not right here.
That's
Hmm.
interesting. The day of that incident, it looks like Dakota would have been going through his Venus return.
Dun dun dun. We can see that. Neptune, Venus on that
Whoa.
Venus. Mercury on his sun. Mercury return for him as well. And a
Saturn
Saturn
return for
return.
him. Dang.
hmm
I really hope that they.
Work it out on the remix. I'm just kidding.
I'm screaming. I hope there is not a remix. These are the two that we don't need a remix from. Oh.
Mars hitting that south node.
Wow.
They should have severed this at that point, right? Like this was not to say they should have. Mars
They
South
also had
Node.
three miscarriages, I think two or three miscarriages
Oh,
before getting successfully pregnant with Ever.
that escaped me. I did not know. I was
Wow,
not privy to
yeah,
that.
that was a part of their story in season one. And I
Oh yeah. Oh my God. That just feels like
remember,
such a long time ago. But yeah, you're so
yeah,
right.
like that Black Moon Lilith on her Saturn. So, like, I don't know. So, like, Lilith, I just know her part of the story, she's accused of being like a child eater. I don't know if it's
Mm.
true or not, or if it's just the rumors about her.
Right,
You know how they like
right.
to demonize women.
Yeah, yeah,
But that
yeah.
sometimes that's an interesting mythology there. I don't really have like a delineation there, but like just that Saturn Lilith thing of like
Yeah.
they
No,
tried so many times.
fascinating. Because Scorpio moon also admittedly does give me, and with her Chiron in Virgo, like themes that keep coming to mind are like Demeter and Persephone, and the idea of, she's come from one controlled environment into this other type of control environment, right? And like not even baking in religion as a part of the control environment. So just the idea of how do I find empowerment amidst all of this control, to your point in mythology, there's a lot of like the demonization of it. It's not entirely clear
What
here.
you just said was so tea. Hold on. Hold on. I think a lot of people get in what we say like the cycles of abuse, right? Or
hmm
cycles of toxic relationships or family patterns. Like a lot of people get into abusive or tricky situations trying to
hmm
leave one controlled environment and trying to find freedom in another.
hmm
Oh, like that's so real because that is how a lot of like abuse is perpetuated in these cycles. T. No, and another thing I'm noticing here is like while they have a lot of like trining things, right? We talk about their water placements, their
hmm
air placements trying each other, having like her Scorpio placements in a superior square to his Aquarius placements, like that's where there's a
mm
lot of tension there. Like
hmm
Aquarius and Scorpio are square. And like when I say in a superior position, what does that mean? Essentially, it's earlier in zodiacal order. So like
hmm
Scorpio season happens a couple months before Aquarius season. And then Aquarius is superior in position to Taurus because a couple months before Taurus season, we have Aquarius season. So you can kind of think of it like I literally think about it like that. It's like who comes
hmm
first? And it's
hmm
like who has the upper hand in this power dynamic
hmm
and not saying I'm talking about their entire relationship, but I'm talking about just within the Scorpio and the Pluto place or Scorpio in the Aquarius placements, where I can see, moon square, Mercury. It's like they could have
Totally.
their, oh, this is their composite. I was like, what am I looking at?
No, I was just, as you were talking, I was just
Here's,
curious
yeah,
to see if there was anything hitting, because we don't know their time, but then really you're just taking the midpoints of like their
midpoints
placements,
of the,
right?
yeah,
I mean,
right.
look
So
at the
we just
Mars
ignore the
South
houses.
node. Look at the Mars South node.
Girl, break up.
Literally.
Let's break this one up. Let's okay, obviously we have no control over this and people have to make their own
No.
choices, but
Right?
if I could suggest a thing or two,
And it's also their
wow.
Saturn return. I mean, makes sense. Saturn Aquarius, Saturn Pisces, but they have a 0 degree Saturn in Pisces.
This week, doesn't Saturn Cazimi around 5 or 6 degrees on top of their relationship sun?
Yeah.
Hopefully this is a wrap.
Mirroring that
Hope
investigation, Saturn Cazimi from 17th of Feb 2023, right? So,
what a full circle. Oh wow, I'm not as well versed in composite charts, but wow, this
mhm.
is interesting.
It's funny because like composite charts isn't something I actively use like a whole lot because you can pull so much from Synastry and that's enough information before it goes into overload. But there are some particular moments like the Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan composite chart, literally Jupiter stationed on their composite midheaven and Venus hit their composite sun, right? How beautiful for that
Best
to show
headlines of the
up.
week.
Literally.
Beautiful.
Incredible. You start on a high, we end on a different vibration. But it is always interesting. I'm like, maybe there's something that does come up, right? And also look at their Chiron in Leo at 27 degrees Leo, which was the degree of that eclipse in Aquarius in Feb. The solar eclipse in Aquarius was hitting 28 degrees, which means it would have naturally implied partnership because this is affecting their Chiron in Leo, who is getting recognized and seen, and how they're communicating with each other, right? Like that was the week that
Through the
led up to the
medium.
investigation. Feb 25th, and Saturn and Neptune formally moved into Aries, or not formally, they formally formed the conjunction on Feb 20th. So when you're thinking about the sequence of events of that week, I have no shadow of a doubt some shit did go down, and it was
In
intense.
February with that. You want to know something interesting?
Mm-hmm.
The eclipse that we had in February was at
Mm-hmm.
around 28 Aquarius, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Dodecta Moria, or the 12th part of the Pisces new moon this week, was at about 28 degrees of Aquarius, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If this was not at that degree, I think it was definitely in Aquarius. And
Mm.
so that does, like, it's pinging that lunation, that eclipse lunation we had in February. So that's really interesting. Another interesting thing I'm clocking here is the, like, Jupiter is I think Venus stations direct this fall at approximately 25
Yeah, it's
Libra.
22 Libra and 8 Scorpio. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh wow, that's my moon and my ascendant are getting kissed by this retrograde. But anyways,
Oh,
back to me.
hey!
Yeah, my moon's at 9 Scorpio and my ascendant is 25 Libra.
All up in this retro
It's
Venus
the Venus
retrograde.
retrograde's all about my rebrand, guys.
We
That's
love
all.
that. We love to see. We love to
Um,
see.
However, I think for them that Venus retro, I think that's, again, I'm not as like sharp on technique here. However, like just going on what I know, I would
Mm-hmm.
clock that Venus retrograde, and then that Mars retrograde would go
Mm-hmm.
over that Chiron degree, that Juno, that Chiron. It's because it goes from Virgo to Leo.
Leo,
Like I think
yeah.
it's 22 Leo. I forget, 6 degree Virgo.
That I haven't looked as explicitly because mentally
Something.
I'm just like, oh my God, it's coming from a Mars-Venus conjunction in Virgo, and I don't want to think about that just yet.
Ugh.
And my Leo as well. So, 2 months later, I'll like settle into
We'll
it.
get, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
at
yeah,
eight.
yeah.
Hold on, wait, let me look exactly. I'll,
But that would make sense for Taylor's
it's
chart
at 10
too.
degree Virgo.
Oh, beautiful. This station is on her Jupiter Lilith opposition, right? So October,
Mm.
November will be very loud. And I'm almost like, oh my God, are we getting she's no longer gonna, I think she's paused even from mom talk, like SLMOW, LOL. That was a very long acronym. I'm like, wait, I'm not finished yet. But yeah, I think she's put on
Mo.
pause, slow-mo, LOL. That's all I want to say is slow-mo when I think of like
Mercury
SLO.
right now.
Literally. And then maybe she comes back, right? Because Venus retrograde means like, oh, after this retrograde is done, Inanna comes back. So like even when you think about the myth, right? She's abandoned her throne to dive deeper into the underworld. Maybe she gets rehab, maybe she goes to rehab, maybe she gets help, whatever, right? She comes back, she sees that the king has taken over her throne, and then she like basically sends him down to the underworld. So if I'm thinking about that myth in the context of Venus retrograde in the fall, I almost wonder if her kids do get taken away from her first and then she comes back for them later.
You know what? That makes a lot of sense. That's a very interesting thing. I definitely think the custody thing is going to play out this fall for
Yeah.
her. With,
Yeah.
yeah, because the Venus retrograde goes over her moon Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the degree of the moon, we don't know what it is, and her
Mm-hmm.
Lilith, as you mentioned, and wow.
And
Ooh,
the fact that it's going to oppose her Mars in Aries, right? Because when it retrogrades
yes,
back into
yes,
Libra,
yes, it
oof.
sure does. And the Mars retrograde is going to sextile those degrees of Scorpio, like the sixth
Mm-hmm.
degree, specifically in late January next year, early Feb. Oh, and her Chiron. Oh, yeah,
Brutal.
girl.
But then
I think
Uranus also hitting her sun, literally coming up in April. The transition away from
we,
Taurus into
yeah.
Gemini.
Mars is also going to station retrograde approximately opposite her Saturn as well. So the fact that like Saturn, because Saturn's at 10 or 11 and Mars will be stationing direct around 10, maybe there it'll be like something almost resolves and then
Mm-hmm.
Mars goes retrograde. And
Mm-hmm. We
we
can't
have to
come
go
to the
through,
final.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mars retrograde's about, I think, 12 weeks.
It feels so long this year.
Mars and Venus retrogrades are technically the most rare. Venus is the most rare because she happens every 18 months for only 40-ish days.
Mm-hmm.
But Mars retrogrades for 12 weeks. And then because like Mars, usually we're used to like Mars, you're done in a like, 6 to 12 weeks in a sign, chop
Mm-hmm.
chop. Then more Mars goes retrograde is in the same area of the zodiac for like 7 months. That's why I like Mars retrograde's gotta be like I think the most drag. But like technically Venus retrogrades, they're their own thing, but
Mm-hmm.
having them both in succession and just the way they're hitting her chart, I definitely think we're gonna see that storyline. I want to say when we recorded our traders episode,
Mm.
one thing that we were talking about when we were talking about Colton and Rob, and I was noting the Mars Moon synastry, I was
Yes.
like, at that time, right? They were best buds, right? They were best buds
Mm-hmm.
by the time we were recording. But what I had said, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if Rob does Colton dirty. But
Yes.
Colton will
Yes.
still be like, hard eyes, that's my bae. And he sure did. Next week, he
Yeah.
said, chop, chop, Colton, that's fine. He said, let Candace have this one, that's fine.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
when that happened, I was like, we said that.
That was so tea. We didn't talk about Mora, which LOL in hindsight, like we just ran out of time, not because we didn't think that was important. Just when the cast is that
It was
big,
so big.
there's so
Yeah.
many people to talk about. Like there's only so many things you can look. But we did say that Tara and like Johnny's chart was so activated, and obviously like they were the prominent cast members toward the end of the season. So you saw
Right.
still that in
So,
motion.
is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with Taylor, Frankie, Paul, and Dakota and The
Yeah, no,
Bachelorette?
I feel like we did a really comprehensive job across different technique, time periods, charts. But one thing I did want to say that is more of like an overarching narrative, because I have a SAG moon, so like I think about things more
Yeah.
in like the context of the larger picture. Obviously, if you're a Saturn return Pisces person like Taylor, Frankie, Paul, like their relationship composite Saturn, it then feels like we're done with the lesson. Saturn's officially clear. And on some level, maybe this Mercury retrograde period is like the encore, whatever we haven't fully cleaned up yet. Like this is our chance to like go scrub a little bit. But because we still have eclipses that will happen in Virgo and Pisces. We still have two more coinciding with the Mars retrograde in Virgo. So when I really do think of the true cleanup to the Saturn return in Pisces story, sorry, it never ends. You're really thinking about it through the entirety of Mars retrograde in Virgo.
The nodes are not done with you guys. The nodes, and we still have one more Virgo eclipse early next year. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Saturn and Pisces people, you're still in the integration of it all, especially that Mars retrograde in
Yes.
Virgo. There's one last thing I want to look at because I
Oh,
thought of
yeah,
this because a
yeah,
lot of people are saying, is the Bachelorette like, is it cooked, right? Like, is this
yeah.
shit done
Oh,
or is it coming back? So, the Bachelorette, not the Bachelor, the
yeah, yeah.
Bachelorette
Give me the
premiered
date. Yeah, yeah.
January 8th, 2003.
Okay.
8 p.m. New York.
Ugh.
Let's look. I'm
Who?
so
Oh my
curious.
God, Trista.
Krista.
I remember
She was
watching
iconic.
that.
Aren't they still married?
They are, and she chose a regular guy, like
Yes,
firemen,
they were
right?
not. Yes, she chose this like beautiful hot fireman. They still have kiddos. The Bachelor has resulted in more successful relationships. Isn't that interesting?
That is very true because woman's, of course, choosing at the helm. But like one thing I found, I remember from her retelling the story of that Bachelorette season was like all the dudes were just like kind of happy to be there, happy to bro out, and hang. And Ryan was the one that would write her love poems when he wasn't with her. He was so invested in her to the point
Hmm.
where she knew without a shadow of a doubt, this is the father of my children.
That's my
Like,
man. That's
mwah,
my
mwah.
husband. Look at this T. So Bachelorette's about to go through their Jupiter return, and this time South
Mm-hmm.
Node will be in Leo. We're gonna have that
Oh
Mars
my
Jupiter
God.
Ketu pile up for a minute later this year.
Yes, we
And
are. Ugh.
also, look at Saturn. Look at Saturn going over the moon of this chart. And
Mm.
another interesting thing, I love this for a Bachelorette premiere. The moon is trine Venus.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
cute. I like that. I like that. No wonder this season was successful.
Oh, totally. But also just in the context of like you have fire trines and the South Node, like ninth and fifth house. Like it's just the idea that yeah, this show is a lot about like adventure and romance and the idea that the nodes are also South Node in the fifth house, North Node in the 11th. We have to take it seriously. Like there can be romance, there can be passion, but what does long-term compatibility look like rather than just indulging in the immediate gratification or the, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever like the rooms are, right? Like the overnight suites. Oh my God, the terminology is coming back to me.
Overnights, fantasy suite.
Fantasy suite.
Okay.
That's what it was. There we go. The fantasy
Hometowns.
suite. Mars
Oh,
and Scorpio with
wow.
that hometown.
That's so real. And hometowns are where the real cuts happen, I feel like.
Oh, absolutely. But also, I
Oh,
mean,
look at
look at
that.
the Mercury retrograde.
This is a very important time for The Bachelor with
Mhm.
Saturn. Okay, like
And
that's
Uranus opposition. Oh, not opposition, sorry, square. This is the waxing Uranus square. 27 degree.
wow. Oh, I see it by degree.
Yeah. So
And
this
Neptune was in
needs a reinvention,
Aquarius.
to your point. This franchise is due for a zhuzh up. So it makes sense
Yes.
the old format can't keep, but maybe we keep the same parameters and approach it differently.
Okay, if they do like a refilm and a relaunch, like
Mm.
unless they have supersonic speed, it'll probably premiere. Okay, unless they're doing like some like
Love Island shit.
Love Island type vibe. If they do a proper season, they it would premiere most likely once Jupiter's in Leo.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic. I think that would be like a big return to form almost like, and you know what? At the end of the day, I do think that ABC should just like, LOL, if you're the astrologer talking to the ABC execs, right? Like regardless of your morality and like what you believe, like, oh, you should have put her on or not. The idea that, all right, I would consider this as investment marketing for the banner season that will come as a function of this. Like,
I guess I would whip something together and then in the fall, like
mm-hmm,
some once Jupiter moves into Leo, I think that eclipse we're gonna have in Leo is I think
mm-hmm.
kind of close to degree to it's in the first house, the batch because we do have the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that this August is gonna be really prominent for this storyline, and I
Yes.
think that like honestly, this Bachelorette season, this Taylor Frankie Paul one that was to be when I saw the premiere date, that was the weekend, I was like, honestly, that's not bad. Like, this is a good weekend to launch dates.
No.
But what I think the problem was is they should have released that shit quickly with someone who is as psychologically fragile as Taylor because too many things changed. I
Mm.
think they really needed it's like sometimes with electional, it's like you might have a really good electional, but that is election, but it doesn't make a difference if that's too late for the story you're living.
Totally.
And so I think that was a case here. Like technically they had a good launch date,
Yeah.
but they kind
It
of
would have been
fumbled the
loud.
bag.
That's so
And but
fascinating.
instead, this launch that turned more into a cancellation, it has brought back buzz, right? And
Yes.
Exalted Luminaries right now, like it has brought back light to and a spotlight to this fucking franchise that's been kind of again in their flop era.
Not the flop era. The last thing I want to say is Venus and Chiron are obviously coming together this week on the Lilith of the Bachelorette. So I do wonder if we hear from the men this week or something, you know what I
The
mean?
her man or the man that she
Doug,
chose, Doug, yeah, her
The
man.
Jed
I
2.0.
Yes, I don't know if they're still together or not, but she, before the news broke, she
Hmm.
like teased on TikTok. She had like a TikTok with his arm. Like she was like grabbing his arm in the kitchen,
Interesting.
implying that they were, and literally it was right after that the news like,
Very interesting. Because the
so
rumors were that they weren't together because they
that is the rumor. But maybe
explicitly.
like
Hmm.
maybe it was like that weird back and forth because of Dakota. Like maybe it sounds like the men of her season did put out a nice night before the video came out,
Yeah,
put
yeah.
out a statement in kindness and in support of her. So
Hmm.
we'll see how this cookie crumbles.
We will see how this cookie crumbles. And again, because this is Mercury retrograde till April 9th, and funnily enough, right, that's
This
the
flies
last day
by
of
over.
Mars in Pisces as well before it moves into
Yes,
Aries and her Mars return. So, like, you are kind of thinking about this in waves, right? Like, maybe that is the conclusion of this investigation narrative, but then that begins a different challenge.
I think we'll probably see something in the headlines close to that Mars Saturn conjunction in
Mm,
around April 20th.
hmm. That last week of April, especially because Uranus is like moving into Gemini that week, that is the last co-presence of Taurus Sun and Uranus in Taurus, right? Like it's almost like that one last like shake up. So yes, we might be clear of the retrograde-ish, but April is still floor is
April's
lava.
a spicy month, so this was
What?
so good.
Oh my God, Bachelorette astrology for the soul, honestly. That was when things hit, it's like more than anything, like, sure, let's break down the chart, but like when the timing things hit and you're just like, oh shit, like when you said to pull out the Bachelorette chart and you see the eclipses hitting the angle, literally the angle degree, and Uranus, it's like, oh, they are going through a breakout, a disruption.
Wait, that's crazy. Okay, you saying that, you were pointing out that Aquarius eclipse that happened at 28.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
deep descendant of.
Yes.
That's so crazy.
Yes. Literally. That's why I was like, oh my
Oh yeah, the eclipse
God.
this February and then an eclipse on the Jupiter in August. Oh, this Bachelorette tea is not over, baby.
No, I think that Aries could be the idea that maybe we settle this investigation stuff, but then there is this lawsuit between ABC and Taylor Frankie Paul, right? Like she's thinking of countersuing, which is so Mars and Aries as well, right? Like you sue me, I'll sue you. Like let's tit for tat this. So I do feel like April will be more about the lawsuit and stuff, but I do think we may hear
That makes sense
even,
with Saturn Mars.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
This is
yeah.
so tea. I'm
Uh,
sipping my swig.
I mean, I wish I had a swig to sip on. Ooh,
This is
stimulating
so good.
conversation.
I'm excited to see how our predictions unfold, if they're accurate or,
Right.
we'll see. We'll
Yes.
see.
Always,
Oh, thank
always.
you so
But
much for having me on, Tasha, as always.
oh my God, thank you for one, being so down to talk astrology, pop culture, and like really just pull some amazing depth out of a situation more than just beyond the headlines. So I'm personally humbled and appreciative that you got to spend some time with me today. So thank you, Neha. Sign up for her casual election workshop April 1st.
April 1st.
April 1st, the Libra full
Yes.
moon, and trust that the time that she's elected is probably the best time for it. So if you can't make it, I'm sure there's a recording available for you.
Yes, it'll be so good. It'll be so good.
All
Okay.
right. Take care, everyone. See you next time.